this leads me into this whole idea of sort of like, I know everybody's, the old people are now calling it the new media versus the old media. So new media obviously being like you and Perkins and JJ, like it's a very, we're seeing it very much this season, especially right now. But what I find fascinating about all that is that when you guys were players, it just always felt like, and I got it, to try to limit the access that media had into your lives. Like, I don't want to share anything that I don't have to share with you. I want to keep my life private. And it's crazy that now that's just sort of an expected part of what we all do. Do you notice that? Did you find that your mentality changed a little bit as far as like, I'm willing to share a little more because I have to?
Yeah, well, and I say we, and it's just like when we were coming up in the industry, even as a player, like this, New York media, and that's where I was introduced. You just don't fucking talk. Like when I landed there in 2001, the golden prince was Derek Jeter. Like he was the guy. He was the guy in New York. If you wanted to survive in that industry and enjoy your life and be one of those guys, let's even go like Eli Manning, because Eli Manning got there
Yeah.
for you. Those guys said nothing, they showed nothing, they did nothing. Right? They did like think about that. Like so when I landed in 2001, it's like who's the guy? Derek Jeter. He's never in trouble.
No.
People want to rumor about his dating life, but he's not married. He just does his thing. He goes about his business. He's and that's kind of the blueprint that you followed. So and then it's because there was 9 different newspapers and TVs, and they're all looking for something to start. And so I think for me, it's just like when I got there and I was like, dude, I didn't care. Like, you knew I was a crazy person. You knew I was a
Yeah.
crazy person because we would hang out. But no one
Yeah.
else outside of my teammates knew that. No one else outside in the media knew that because that was just like the energy. But I think with social media and with like real, we can say it's real actual brand growth,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like that's just what it is. It's like you can do the fabricated, like, oh, this is what I do. But I think the more you kind of open yourself up to being real and honest with people, the more people will engage with you. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of the reason why, like, I do other forms of social media is because people will engage with you in that space. But as far as the new media goes, I just think that like we are the first generation and like we're the first guys. We're the guys that like the middle part of our careers, social media blow up. And
Right.
then we were able to see the Skips and the Stephen A's and all. We watched all these guys, and guys have been keeping receipts. And it's not to come to like say you're wrong and you're this. No, it's like, oh no, 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 no. Now we're entering into the media space. We all have our own podcasts. Shout out road tripping. We all have our own social media followings, and now we're all financially secure. So we're
Mm-hmm.
getting into the media space to some set the record straight to give a more honest retired players like viewpoint. And I think that's where it's going to have a positive effect because there are guys in the media that like Stephen A and Colin Coward and all of these guys, they have to talk about so much,
Everything.
right? Everything. And it's a fucking skill, but they do use some broad generalities, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that's part of the gig.
Sometimes they just don't even know what they're saying. Those are fun too.
There are people in the media that do that. So now when you have like guys like JJ, myself, Draymond, there's so many, CJ did a great job, right? Guys now jump in and it's like, no, 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 no. We're not talking broad generalities here. We're talking about specifics. And so for me, I feel like that raises the bar on a
Mm.
lot of these shows because there is no more generalities because these guys, and I include myself, they're talking about specifics. So if you're not ready to come and either debate or have conversations about specifics, it's going to not look really well. So I think there's a group of us that are, and I don't say us, there's just a group
No,
of
it is.
athletes that
It
are
definitely
coming
is.
into the media now because
Yeah.
we've been privy to the social media and the growth of television media from the like the debate sports side that we're coming into it more of a like a no, we have receipts and this is what we believe and we can say it because financially we don't need this job. We
No.
also have we're also well trained, and part of the reason why I started the podcast was just because I wanted to like get more reps getting
Smart.
comfortable and being articulate behind the camera and understanding how to interview and have conversations. So I just think it's a cool to be a part of the group that's kind of not tweaking or changing, but just like having a new type of voice.
Definitely evolving. Do you like in your mind in a perfect world, is this a good time because you still have sort of the older generation, the Skips and the Stephen A's, and then you guys, or would it be better if it was just you guys, or do you need them to sort of have that wall to bounce off of and
You
kind of
need them.
argue and
You need them because I don't want to fucking talk about football. I don't, like that's so it's like those guys like the Mad Dogs, like, and that's the thing.
oh
Like
god,
you
yeah,
know this, that shit is so hard. Like
all
they
the
have
time.
to talk about everything, so they have to use generalities and they have to talk about things from a broad standpoint. Like I couldn't do Stephen A's job, and I couldn't do Skip Bayless's job. I couldn't
Yeah,
do
you
that.
could. You
Well,
could.
I'm just no. I saying could as in like I don't want to,
No,
right?
that's fair.
I
That's
yeah,
fair.
that's what I'm saying. It's good as in like I like because like I like but that's where they are so good and they are they have the ability to do that. I think it's good because I think if we can make basketball more specific, then I think as more football players come in and there's guys
Mm,
that do a good job of that. As more football players come in, they become more specific. So the guys that are like the broad talking people have to get more specific, which I think raises the bar of all of these shows because you have a little bit more honesty and you have athletes that have been in this fire for 10, 15 years of social
right.
media. It's like I remember when like specifically there was a question on First Take and it was like will LeBron James, like, is it too much pressure on LeBron James, and JJ was like, pressure. LeBron James doesn't care about media pressure. He doesn't care about this. That's something that's fabricated by us. This man has done X amount of games, X amount of finals, all these things. Like, you think he cares about like what? Like, doesn't mean he doesn't like it or something, but it's like
Right.
there's no legacy pressure on him in game 5 of this. We're not going to put any more pressure than he is on himself. And people were like mind blown that JJ was calling it out. And you're like, well, that does make sense. But
It
unless you have
does.
that guy, that athlete that played, right? And no disrespect, like Max Kellerman's might do, but if Max is saying that, people are like, oh, that's just Max and Stephen A going at each other, going back and forth. But when JJ sits in that chair and says that, people are like, oh, well, that makes sense that these
Yeah.
guys don't give a shit, right? That these
Yeah.
guys don't play. So I think that's the part that makes it fun and special and kind of unique.
And I do think you're right with the specifics because we've always had former athletes come into media after they were done. But just a different vibe now. And I think it is because of the specifics that are being brought in and it just feels more valid